We're good.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the 1% podcast. We've got a really special podcast for number 20. Before we get into that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you do during this time. Sean, how are you doing, bud?
Good. I'm just starting to feel a little bit more like springtime, which
Yeah.
means baseball is right around the corner. So we're excited.
All it took was some murdering of some cranes there in North Texas.
Absolutely. Had a good time up there. Now we're ready to get back to it. Excited to be back.
Awesome. Garrett, how about yourself?
Doing great, man. We had a great Christmas. Just like Sean said, we got to go to Lubbock, do some sandhill crane hunting for his bachelor party. So we had a good time, got to shoot some crane. If you've never done that, I would definitely recommend getting out there and getting an opportunity to go do it because it's a bunch of fun. But yeah, we had our first 13U practice yesterday. I guess it was yesterday.
13 and 14.
Got to get some guys on some long toss programs, get them ready, just trying to get the arms ready for the springtime. Obviously, we're about to hit it hard once we get back from the ABCA, which we leave
the 4th.
So this next
January.
Get to go out there, get to learn some more baseball. This will be year 2 that Sean and I get to go, so we're excited. But man, today's gonna be really good. We're excited for Coach Parker, who is coaching at A&M Corpus right now, and we got to meet him this past fall. We had a showcase down there, and we just had a team camp. Had the opportunity to get to meet them, and man, the first thing I'd say is the moment Coach Parker introduced himself to Sean and I, it was one of those things. I looked at Sean and I said, they're going to win, and they're going to win big here, man. Like getting to talk to Coach and just getting to hear philosophy, getting to hear what they believe in, what they've done in the past, it blew us away. And the nice thing is, we always say it's kind of crazy how the same mentality of coaches, like you see the same stuff all over the place, right?
For sure.
Like you see the same mentality, and the players play the same exact way. And I think that's something that we pride ourselves on is like, there's got to be a certain way that we go about our business. There's got to be a certain way that our guys do their work. They carry themselves day to day. And the way that Coach Parker talked to us was the same exact stuff that we preach to our guys. So for the listeners, for the people that tune into us on a weekly and monthly basis, this is going to be a great one. Coach, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you being here. Go ahead and give us a little introduction on you, how you grew up in the game, and just a little backstory on you and kind of where you're at today.
Yeah, man. First of all, so thanks for having me. It made me sound like a smart guy there, so I appreciate that. So I need all the help I can get. So no, honestly, man, I grew up. I'm from Searcy, Arkansas. Just kind of grew up probably like most kids. Getting the chance to play the game, and I kind of joke that I liked it so much I just never really grew up. Somebody asked me the other day how long I was gonna coach, and I said as long as my wife continues to give me an allowance. She's an ER nurse, so obviously as long as she gives me an allowance and lets me not have a real job, then I probably won't get one. But I've been fortunate. I went to an NAI school here in Arkansas, Lyon College, and got my degree there in 4 years, and went down to Henderson State Division II school in Southern Arkansas and got a master's degree, and then made a quick trip around the world in the coaching side of things. I guess I got done at Henderson State and graduated from Lyon in 2005, Henderson State 2006, or I guess I was there in 2006, the spring of 2006. Got the job at Garden City Community College out in Kansas, and was there for the 7 and 8 seasons as the second assistant. Left there and went to California Baptist University out on the West Coast, and worked for Gary Adcock for the 9, 10, and 11 seasons. I was fortunate enough to make the NAIA World Series in 2010. Left there 2011 summer, and got my first head coaching job at Oklahoma Wesleyan, NAIA school just north of Tulsa in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And I would tell everybody I was ready. Man, I was the boss. I was 28 or so, something like that. And man, that was the job. I was ready and good to go. And 30 minutes into the first day, I realized I'm not ready for this job. And what in the world am I doing? And it was a lot easier sitting in the assistant's chair to make those decisions and have all the great ideas and do everything. And then all of a sudden, I was in the big chair and wait, I have to do that too, and I have to do this. And there's a lot more to being a head coach than what I thought. But we managed to make it work. Had some good teams there. I was there 2012 season to 2018. Made some good runs, in year one, we set a school record for wins at 42, went 42 and 25. When I took the job at Oklahoma Wesleyan, they were headed in the right direction, but had never won 40 times in a season and never actually been higher than like third in the league. I was dumb enough when they hired me. I'd just come back from Cal Baptist where we had won and been to the World Series and had, I don't know, 10 or 11 draft picks in 3 years. And, it was, hey, what do you want to, what's the goal? And I said, win a national title. I think everybody thought like, okay, that's cool. Like it's just not finish third in the league every year. And, I was fortunate enough, man, we had guys that trusted what we did and believed in what we did. And, the first year I started 1-6 in my head coaching career, started 0-5, and then won a game and lost again. So 1-6 and thought, man, we just got to keep the boat afloat. But managed to make a run and finished 42-25. We finished third in the league, which is kind of where they had been. Year number 2, we went 32-23 and finished third in the league. And then it kind of got right. In year 3 there, the 2014 season, we went 58-8. Won 29 straight games at one point, made the NAIA World Series, won the league, made the NAIA World Series, actually came within like 6 outs of playing for a national title. From there it was kind of just, it got rolling. We had our first National Player of the Year in 2014, and then just kind of made a run after that. 2015 we won the league again. We missed the World Series by a game. 2016 we finished like second in the league, won 42 or 43 games, something like that. 2017 we went back to the World Series, won the league again, went back to the World Series at like 51-12 or something like that. Actually had 2 National Players of the Year. The ABCA named one of our guys the National Player of the Year, and the NAI named another guy on our team their National Player of the Year. So it's kind of unique to have that happen. And then 2018, my last year at Oklahoma Wesleyan, we 53-8, won the league again, and then missed the World Series by a game there. Took the job at Eastern Oklahoma State. Wanted to try to do it at a different level. I'd done it at the NEI, and we didn't win a national title, so we hadn't accomplished everything, but felt like we had certainly left Oklahoma Wesleyan in a better spot than what we were, and got the chance at Eastern to go down and to do that. And I got there, and the first year we went 25-23, just kind of getting used to junior college. And there's different things about having just 2 classes versus having 4, and young guys versus old guys. And but learned some lessons and made some adjustments. And I think there were some people that doubted kind of what we were doing a little bit, just coming from the NAI to the junior college, and you go 25-23, and hey, you can't do it the same way, and you can't. And, man, the bases are still 90 feet apart, and the mound's 60 feet 6 inches. I think you can. You just have to get it going in the right direction, and get things organized the way you want them. And the second year there, we were 19-4 at the time that COVID shut us down, and so we felt like we were headed in the right direction. And then there were people that said like, well, hey, they were just off to a nice start. I'm not sure when it stops being a nice start and when it starts being maybe you were pretty good, but so then the third year there would have been 21 season. Man, it just kind of all clicked. We had the right set of guys. We go 47-7. We win the league, win the tournament. Actually got 1 game short of the World Series. Had a good run. We had 3 arms in our rotation that were 94-96. That wound up. Obviously, they're all 3 now playing professional baseball, and had some really good position players that were with us. And we lose that team, and I think there were a lot of people, that was a school record for wins at 47, and there were a lot of people that said like, hey, you lost 3 arms that were 94-96, and you lose this guy and that guy, and you probably can't do that again. And I think that aggravated a lot of the guys that were returning. And so then last year we came back and they worked really hard, and we had to do it a different way. We didn't have the 3 power arms, but we had some guys that could really pitch. They're obviously still pretty good at what they do. And we actually started last year 30-0, which I think is crazy anytime you do that. And but started 30-0, finished the year 51-5, won the league again, and came up just short of the World Series. Again, we just couldn't get over the hump to get to the World Series. And then had the chance to take the recruiting job at Corpus Christi with Coach Malone, and it just was the right fit. We had other opportunities to look at different places and to do things. And after looking around at Corpus Christi and talking with Coach Malone, I just thought, I mean, that's the right fit that I'm willing to kind of go back and be the recruiting coordinator and go back and be an assistant again and learn how we're going to do things there. And obviously, just finished the first semester and looking forward to getting into the spring and getting started.
Absolutely. And for us, the biggest thing for me too, that, when we walked away from you, coach, and we got to talk to you, I told Sean. And so for us, like when just listening to that story, this is obviously Sean and I's second time that we've gotten to just listen to you talk and just where you've come from, where you've been. The one thing that I always took away is like, this guy just wins wherever he goes. Coach Parker and Coach Ruiz, like, man, they're guys that turn programs around. They change, the culture. They change the way they go about their business. They change the way they do things. And just kind of like you said, like, to me, you made a comment at Oklahoma Wesleyan and at Eastern, and it was basically get it going in the right direction, right? What does that mean to you? Like, when you say get it going in the right direction, you've done it multiple times now, and just with how you've run your programs and how you've gone about what y'all do as coaches on a day-to-day basis. What does that mean to you when you say, hey, I'm coming into a new place, just like A&M Corpus this year? What does getting it going in the right direction mean for you?
Yeah, and I first of all, I'll say this. I think I figured out a long time ago I'm a lot better coach when I find people that can overcome my coaching. Right, when I have better players than I am a coach.
Yeah.
Good players obviously make you look a lot smarter. And I've been fortunate to be around some of the best players that have made me look really smart. So when I say going in the right direction, that doesn't mean that Oklahoma Wesleyan had been bad before, or that Eastern had been bad before. I mean, like Eastern, had Coda Glover's an alum of Eastern. Former big leaguer John Gray with the Texas Rangers is an Eastern alum. I mean, it's not like Eastern had been bad by any stretch. I think when I say going in the right direction, it's going in the right direction for us, and for what we're trying to do. And I'm not smart enough to change a lot of how I do things. I think a lot of it is, going in the right direction is finding the right people. We talk a lot about that. People always want to know, like, hey, what are you looking for? That's the $1 million question in baseball. Well, what are you looking for? And without being too much of a smart aleck, my best answer is like, we're looking for the right people. And I think we've found that to work for us. You mentioned Coach Ruiz, Noe Ruiz, and we started our 10th year together. Kind of unique that he was with me at Oklahoma Wesleyan, that he was with me at Eastern, and then we got the opportunity to take the Texas A&M Corpus Christi job together. So he's here with me now, or we're here together, I guess I should say. And I think that's unique to have somebody stay with you that long and that kind of believes in what we're doing. And Coach Malone obviously believes in us enough to hire us and give us that opportunity. But I think a lot of it is everybody's always enamored with talent and just the velocity or how fast they run or how hard they hit it or some of the measurables. And I think that's really important. I don't mean to act like talent doesn't matter, because obviously we all know that talent wins. Talent is king. But for us, we've always thought that we'll take a little less talent if we had the right person. And I think that's probably the biggest thing for us that's different is I think a lot of people want to take the talent and then try to mold them into the right person. And I haven't been successful with that. I've done better with, hey man, like that's the right person. And maybe it is just a touch less talent than what we, than this other guy over here, but the person fits us better and our work ethic and kind of how we go about it. I don't know any other way to do things than to work.
Coach, let me ask you, because I think this is a question that a lot of the parents and maybe even some of these coaches who are kind of growing up on the select side and maybe he's got that bigger ambition ahead of them. What are you said a second ago, you're seeing in these smaller ranks, arms with the mid-90s, really good stuff. You guys are competing with the big boys. I guess on a two-part question, is there some parity coming to baseball that you're seeing, or are you guys just lucky to have those guys out there, or are you guys just working hard to turn into that?
I think a lot of it's hard work. I think we do work really hard at what we do. I think everybody. I've said this I may have said this to you guys, standing in the outfield whenever we first met, getting ready for team camp, that, everybody loves the idea of winning a championship, right? When you say like, hey, win a championship, everybody hoops and hollers and, we're in and let's go do it. And that's great. And it's a great idea. Not everybody likes the amount of work that's required to actually win a championship. And I think that's what separates a lot of people is everybody loves the idea of building a program, and everybody loves the idea of winning a championship, and everybody loves the idea of going out and recruiting and doing all those things. And not everybody likes the amount of work that's actually required to do it. There's a lot of idea people, and I think that's for us. Kind of what we've done is we've actually gone and worked. I tell everybody, man, I was a pretty average high school baseball player that turned myself into a good college baseball player, not a great one, a good NAIA player. But man, I had to work really, really hard at it to be able to do it. And I really haven't gotten any smarter or any cooler since I left college. I don't know any other way to do it than to keep working and to show up every day and to do that and to get on the road and go find them. There's days I would rather just sit at the house and play with my 5-year-olds. But man, there's not that many good players coming through my living room. So I've got to go to work every day and I've got to go work at it. I think that's the biggest thing for us is finding the right people. When you say get it going in the right direction, I think you have to have people that believe in what you're doing and that want to be coached and that want to play the way you want to play. And I think that's where, and I know we'll get into it later today on the recruiting stuff. I think that's where we've probably set ourselves a little bit apart from a lot of people is we don't tell people what they want to hear. We just tell them who we are and how we do it and then let them decide if that works for them. We don't try to sugarcoat it and sell them on an idea. It's like, hey, this is who we are and this is how we do it. If you want to be a part of it, great. We'd love to have you. And if people leave there and go like, that's freaking crazy, I would never do it that way. Okay. Like at least you knew what you were going to sign up for, where I think a lot of people tell you what you want to hear to get you and then maybe change the game a little bit on you later on, and what they told you and what they do is not exactly the same. And I think for us, finding the right people has been the biggest challenge for us, but also the biggest reward was when we do have the right set of people. Man, they just play harder for you and they want to be coached and they want to be held accountable because you told them you were going to. And it's almost like they're disappointed in you if you don't do your job. If you don't hold them accountable and you don't tell them, hey, that's not right, that can't work. And they want to be coached. And I think that's sometimes a rarity, it's finding people that want to be coached. And, unfortunately, I think some people want to be left alone and they want to be told, great job, even when it's not. They want the back pat. And man, we'll tell you when it's a good job, but hey, man, you also came to get better. So you have to hear the hard stuff too, that, hey, man, that's not good enough. And I think that's a big deal, is finding the people that want to be held to that standard.
For sure. And to kind of add on to that for us has been, when me and Garrett sat down and talked a year and a half ago or so about kind of the envision that we had in terms of building these teams is exactly what you're saying, right? Like if we find the right people, right, those right people will turn themselves into really good baseball players, right? We're seeing it right now with several of our guys. Now, finding those right people is a little bit trickier, just like you said, in terms of like, the work ethic and the guys that are willing to do what's asked. But man, like that's the secret for us as well, is like if we find those right people that are willing to do what's asked of them, you look up and 2, 3, especially for y'all in 4 years, those are the guys that are turning themselves into all conference players, potentially giving themselves a chance to play pro ball.
I think it's funny too. You get a little bit, I wouldn't say easier of a job. I think it's a little bit nicer because you can say no to people at times. You know what I mean? For us, it's not necessarily that we can't say no. We will say no. But especially from like a lesson standpoint, right? We see so many different players. We see so many different walks of life, different guys coming in. We're always going to take guys to train, right? And even from the team side, like I would say right now, we don't get to really be picky just because we're so new, right? But we're still always looking for that. And I think the 2 things that I picked up from you that I think I want people to hear, number one is the kid willing to be coached? And then the second thing is he willing to do it the way that we're asking him to, right? I think those go hand in hand. And I think that's huge because the biggest thing is we see so many guys that come into our program that don't necessarily really want to be coached, right? They don't actually want to take that coaching. And those are the guys that, honestly, I wouldn't say we give up on, but it's the guys that's like, hey, I'm going to go
plateau over some point of time because they're not willing to take that next step.
Yep.
And to add on to that, like the honesty piece too, I think is huge.
Yep.
Right? Because I know I walked in, getting recruited, really, really good time of my life. But you walk into some college coach's office and they tell you this, that, and the other. Oh, we're building a brand new stadium.
Yep.
Yeah, well, show me the blueprint of it. But I think from the player's side, if you walk into a coach and they're open and upfront and honest about everything, those are the guys that you want to play for.
Yep.
Because those are the guys that are going to have your back for 4 years as long as you're there.
Absolutely.
I think it makes it easier to coach them whenever you're truthful with them from the beginning, because then there's no, I think I always tell parents and people that, like, hey man, if you ever leave a place and, after a visit and feel like, man, that just sounds too good to be true. It is. They didn't tell you everything. They didn't tell you the truth. Because I love my job. I've loved every place I've ever worked, but every place I've ever worked, there's always something I would change. Yep. Like if I got to like draw it myself and do it my own way, like I would change something. My mom taught kindergarten, for like 37 years, almost all of them in the same school district. Obviously she liked a lot about, what was going on there, but like there were things she would have changed. Trust me, she didn't love every single minute of every single day of, it's human nature. Like, I don't care how much you like your job. There's still things you would change about your job. Like, if you leave a place and you go like, there's nothing I would change there. Well, hey, you didn't get the whole story. You didn't ask the right questions, or they didn't tell you, they only told you the half truth, what's the other half? Well, I'm not telling you it's a lie. They just didn't tell you the bad stuff. And I think it's easier for us, on our visits. I always joke that sometimes our visits are maybe not as good as other people's visits because we tell you the truth. Like when you leave there, there should be some things where you're like, hey man, I just, I like this and this, but you know what? I didn't really like whatever. Okay, well then you just got to decide, like, is that one thing bad enough to keep you from picking us, at Corpus Christi, or no, you know what, like, man, I'll get over it. But the other side I tell people is that, hey man, at least you already knew what you signed up for when you got here. Whenever we say, hey, we have study hall, sometimes that's a big kicker that people don't want to hear about, right? It's like study hall, like, well, hey, we're going to tell you about study hall on your visit. There's a lot of places that won't tell you about study hall, and then surprise, hey, we got study hall. And it's like, well, hold on, like, you didn't tell me about that. And it's like, well, you didn't ask. And I think a lot of it is for us, like, this is all I do all day, every day is coach baseball and recruit. I'm extremely fortunate. I don't have to teach a class. I've never had to teach a class. Like, it is great. So I think we try to give so much information on our visits and so much information on our, tour and all that people sometimes like, man, we didn't even think about that. Like we would have never thought to ask that question. Well, hey, this is what I do for a living. Like, whatever they do for a living, I would know about, asking them about selling insurance or whatever it is that they do for a living. Like, so we try to make it as seamless as we can and give as much information as possible. So that way, when they pick us, then whenever they walk in the door on day one, it's the same place that recruited them. I think sometimes people walk in and, on that first day and you look around and you go like, hey man, what happened to the place that recruited me? Like, this isn't all rainbows and unicorns that you told me it was going to be. It's like, wait, we got study hall and we got this, we got that. And I think that's a big deal for us, is the honesty. And then I think you can coach them better because, they know you told them the truth from the beginning. Where if you kind of fib a little bit or tell them a little bit or just leave something out, and then always, somewhere way back in the back of their head, they're always going to have that, like, well, what else did he not tell me? Like, what else are they hiding from me? And I don't think you can coach them effectively if you started the relationship on a, on a half truth or, on a, well, did we tell them everything? Like, I think that's a big deal and I think that allows us to find the right people, because I do think there are people that leave our recruiting visits and things like that and go, man, that is crazy. I would never play for them. Okay. That's, at least you found out today for free that we were crazy, that we weren't a good fit.
I think too, like, especially in today's landscape of college baseball, there's so many people bouncing back and forth between schools. I think what y'all are doing with that right there, that honesty keeps player retention, right? Like, from the get-go, you as a coach and you as a coaching staff and the player and his family know exactly what both parties are getting into from the beginning. And so there's not ever going to be that thing like of, well, I'm leaving because I'm not happy. Well, just like you said, like, you would know you're not happy from the beginning, right? Just because it's a Division I school, like, if it's not the fit, it's not the fit. And y'all are gonna be able to tell that from the beginning of the honesty there. So I think kind of to wrap all that up, just in terms of what we said, like I think those are intangible pieces to me, right? Like everybody talks about those intangibles. Obviously there's some physical intangibles that some guys will never have, but I think intangibly, like some of those things are obviously the buy-in, right? In terms of, is this guy bought into what we're doing? I think the second thing is this guy willing to truly be coached? Right. And then is he willing to take the coaching that we're giving? Right. And so I think those are the three things that you're saying is like, is this guy the right fit? Is he going to be the right fit? I think that's what players need to hear is, hey, if you're not going to be this for us, like you're not going to play. You're not going to succeed, number one. But then the second thing is you're not going to play. We're going to play somebody else that has that over them. So I think leading after that, like for you as a coach, like in terms of the tangible pieces now, things that guys can actually develop, high school athletes, what are those things as a coach you're looking for that are tangible for those players to have? Like as you go watch a player play, what are those tangible pieces, I guess, in all pieces of the game that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like we'll get into a lot of things that, I mean, I think strength is one that just, I mean, everybody needs, it's probably undercoached a little bit and underdeveloped coming up and that's coming from someone who didn't have it either. I think the biggest thing that separates, really, really good college baseball players from, okay college baseball players is strength. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like bulky, and we don't all look the same. That's the beauty of baseball is that, 6'6" can play and 5'6" can play, but they both have to be strong, in that. So I think strength is probably the number one missing, factor there. I think the biggest thing for me going and watching, a game, obviously, we want to see the guy be who he's supposed to be. I think, and that's unfortunate that, I think a lot of college baseball has turned into like kind of clone. Everybody wants to be somebody else, and hey man, if you're 6'6", then do things that 6'6" guys do. Obviously, let's hit the ball out of the ballpark, or let's have a strong arm, or let's do this, or let's do that. And if you're the other guy, like, hey man, like be really good at what you're supposed to be. If you're the guy that runs really well, let's show that tool. Because there's 6'6" guys that would love to run, that they just can't. Like, and I think that's the thing is, for us, again, in recruiting, it's trying to find, people always ask, what are you looking for? Well, obviously talent, is there and the right person is there, but, we really don't get into, well, he has to run a certain thing or he has to throw a certain thing or he has to do, no, I'm just looking for a really good baseball player that understands who he is. And then we'll figure out how to get that guy into the lineup and, how to use that guy. And obviously on the mound, like velocity, that helps. But you can't throw it where you want it. It really doesn't matter how hard you throw it. So there does have to be some pitchability. I mean, there's guys that can pitch a Division I baseball that are 86, 88, that can really, really, really pitch. Now those guys obviously have to be able to really pitch at 86, 88. I get, when we had the three guys that were 94 to 96 at Eastern, I mean, they got away with some things because of the velocity. That being said, those three could really pitch too, and that just put them on a different level. I mean, that's why they're playing professional baseball now. But it wasn't man, look how hard he throws it, but he may not throw it, off the backstop. So I think everybody has certain things that they do well. I mean, a little more velocity, you can have a little less command, because you can get away with some things there. You can be a little guy and play college baseball if you run. If you check Twitter, which this is probably going to get me in trouble to say this out loud, but I think Twitter is a little bit of a lie, and it's all about how far do you hit it, and and hitting it in the air. And it's funny, I'm not a anti-launch angle guy, I'm not a pro launch angle guy. It's like I think both sides are saying the same thing. I think the launch angle people are saying the same thing, that if you're not a launch angle person, then everybody just assumes you're a ground ball guy, and if you're not a ground ball guy, then they assume you're just a hit it in the air guy. And I think everybody's saying the same thing, like how hard can we hit it on a line? But nobody wants to just say that out loud. It's like it's everybody wants to argue about like who's right, and but I also think too, for college baseball, like the name of the game is to score runs, not get hits. And I think sometimes Twitter is about getting hits, and that's okay. Like you do have to get hits, but I think drag bunts and push bunts, those are hits. And that's a part of the game, the ability to handle the bat, hit and run and hit. I mean, obviously, like there's 9 guys in a lineup, and I think they all have to do different things. The 3-hole has different jobs than the 9-hole. The 9-hole, you know what, man, he might not get the same liberties that the 3-hole gets. If he doesn't like that, then hey, man, like let's get better and get in the 3-hole. But until then, like man, there's a spot in the lineup. I spent a lot of the time in the 9-hole in my college career, and somebody asked me one time, like, hey man, you ever get tired of hitting in the 9-hole? It's a lot better than hitting in the 10-hole. I mean, the 10-hole's over there by the water cooler. So, no, man, I was good with being in the 9 spot. I was fine with that. So
I want to ask you a question just before we get too far away from it. So you mentioned those big arms, and what was the story with those guys? Were they heavily recruited out of high school, or did they develop at volunteer lap? And then, what was your experience like in dealing with them and the attention they got, and how has that helped you prepare development for guys behind them?
Yeah, I think we had a tremendous plan at Eastern. I tell everybody I have never probably had an original thought when it comes to college baseball. I think college baseball is about stealing ideas, and taking what you can from somebody and making it yours a little bit more, and then improving it and kind of going from there. And obviously, working for Gary Adcock at California Baptist. I was really, really good at what he did, and I was fortunate to be able to spend 3 years there. And he'd been the pitching coach at UCLA and a couple other stops, and so we obviously had a really good pitching plan. That when I took the job at Oklahoma Wesleyan, I was smart enough to just take all that with me, and it has grown and morphed. And I've been pretty fortunate to have some really, really good pitching coaches come along through my career and work with me. And we've kind of always had the framework of, hey, man, here's our pitching plan. And from there, those guys have added to it and taken away from it. And it's kind of morphed and, changed. But at the basis of it, it's still the same pitching plan that we had at Cal Baptist. It's just kind of been added to. And, things have changed over time. And we've realized that maybe that isn't what we need to be doing anymore. We need to switch it over here. And so I think we've always, again, had a really good plan. And I think there's more than one good plan out there. Our plan is not the end all be all and the only way to develop pitchers. It's the only way for me that I like, and that I used. But it's one where we had it. And then within the framework of that, now how do we make each individual player better? And not just a one-size-fits-all. Like, well, it worked for these 3 guys. Like, what do you mean it doesn't work for you? Well, we're all built differently, and we all have to do things. So we've always tried to be pretty flexible with, hey, man, here's the framework of what a pitcher looks like at, our school, or here's the framework of what an offensive player looks like at our school. And, then inside of that framework, well, now we got to figure out how we make that player the best version of themselves they can be. So those arms, 2 of the 3 were not heavily recruited. Christian McGowan was actually had already signed whenever I took the Eastern job. Really, it was kind of the only offer he had, and he was 86, 88, and it just kind of got a little better. He got in the weight room, he got stronger. That was a big deal for him, and just got stronger, and it kind of started to click, and the velocity went up. And Christian is going to be mad at me for saying this out loud, but at one point I asked him, I said, hey, do you throw a 2-seam or a 4-seam? I don't know, I hold it like this. He showed me, and I said, well, that's a 4-seam. You ever thrown a 2-seam? How do I do that? Well, you turn it over and you hold it like this. Okay. And he didn't know anything in that regard. And, now he's in the Phillies organization and, obviously is trending the right way. And, I think signing the 6th or 7th round with them. So he was kind of homegrown in our program. And, we had Andrew Walling was a left-handed arm that, had been heavily recruited. He was from the West Coast. He was actually at Oregon State out of high school. When COVID hit, he had spent 2 years at Oregon State, but when the sophomore year was COVID year, and through a scout friend of mine, that's how I got hooked up with Andrew, and he came out and worked out and decided to transfer and came to Eastern. And, he was already kind of a guy, our pitching guy, Justin Oney. At the time, they were looking at some things and noticed that Walling cut everything. Walling was kind of a 90, 92, 91, 93 sometimes. but everything was cutting, and so they worked on getting behind it and staying, getting a little more spin to it, and then the velocity made that extra jump, and so he was there, with us, and then went to Mississippi State and essentially signed this past summer. And then the third one out of that was David Sandlin, who was really had sent me a video from Owasso High School in Oklahoma. I had known Owasso really well. We'd had several guys from Owasso, but I'd never even heard of this kid. And so I called Coach Turner, the head coach at Owasso High School, and said, "Hey, I feel like I should, know Owasso guys. Like, you guys have been good to me, and you guys are really good. And who's this guy?" And he said, "Hey, Matt, for what you're trying to do at Eastern and all that, I don't think David's a factor for you. He hasn't made our varsity yet. And I just don't think he's going to be a factor." And okay, so hey, David, thanks for everything. I emailed him back, and we'd love to have you come to camp sometime and see you, but obviously wasn't one that we were gonna like jump in there and go recruit really hard and do all that stuff. And a couple of weeks later, Coach Turner called back and said, "Hey, man, like, I just wanted to call and tell you, like, I saw David throwing the other day, and like it looks different. Like, I just wanted you to know that it looks different. Like, he may be a guy you need to like at least talk to and all that stuff." And so we called him, and he came down and worked out, and we wound up signing him. And at the time it was 85, 87, maybe 84, 86. But it was long armed and big. And I mean, it was a working son of a gun. Like, if you told him to go lay down on the highway, he would ask you like, on my stomach or my back? And that was the only question he would ask. Like, it was just like, whatever you tell me. And man, he came in, and the velocity started to tick up. Even before he got to us, going into his senior year, he had kind of become a guy for his high school a little bit. And but it was 88, 90, every now and then a 91, and had a decent freshman year. Would have been 2020 was his freshman year. He called back when COVID got shut down and said, "Hey, I want to be McGowan. How do I do that?" Well, if I had that answer, I wouldn't be working at Eastern. I'd be managing the St. Louis Cardinals. Ultimately, he built a mound in his backyard and went to work and threw and did all kinds of crazy stuff to get stronger over COVID and do everything. And just kind of came back. And I guess that summer, 2020 summer, when Oklahoma, started allowing some people, out of the house and getting to go do some things. There were a lot of our guys had been scheduled to go play summer ball at other places, and wound up staying home because of COVID and different things. And the Oklahoma Sandlot League, he picked up, and they had a bunch of our guys and a bunch of Oklahoma kids playing in it. And the guy that was coaching the team is a really, really good high school coach in our area there in Oklahoma. And he called me after the first outing, and he said, "Hey, man, when's the last time you saw Sandlin throw?" March. He'd sent us some videos, but March. He said, "Man, it was like coming out. Like, it was like really good." And I thought, I laughed, and, Kevin Paxton's his name. I said, "Hey, Kevin and I, it's been a while since we saw baseball, right? We've been locked in our house. Like, it was probably 85, but I'm glad it looked good." And he was like, "Man, I swear it was harder than that." And then the next week, a scout called me and said, "Hey, man, when's the last time you saw Sandlin throw?" And so that's the second time I've heard this now in 2 weeks. I said, "I'm assuming you saw it." "Yep." "Did you have a radar gun?" "Yep." "It's 92, 94. "Oh, yeah, okay." So I told our pitching guy, "Hey, man, we need to be there next week to see him throw and see if that's real." And so we went, and sure enough, it was trending the right way. And he just, the guy just worked himself into being a guy. It's like we talked about, everybody likes the idea of being a guy, but they're not willing to do the things that David Sandlin was willing to do. And he wound up playing at the University of Oklahoma last year, and actually was the starting pitcher that beat Texas A&M to get into the championship series. I think he went 6 or 7 innings. But the guy didn't play for his varsity high school team until his senior year. Spent 2 years in junior college, and now signed with the Royals. Just worked himself into being a guy. So again, it goes back to finding the right people that are willing to do the amount of work that's required. Everybody wants to be David Sandlin. Not everybody's willing to do David Sandlin type things to do that. So, and I think that's what's special about those guys that have made it that far. and the work ethic that they've shown.
I think what's awesome about that, and I think one thing we can all agree on is those guys that are doing that. It's a day-to-day process. It's not one day a week that they're doing something. It's every single day, especially from the pitching side. Like we all know, like guys can't get on the mound as much as they can get in the cage, right? But even on their days that they're not on the mound, there's a strategic plan of what they're doing and why, right? And you do that, and we talk about it all the time, right? Like you get 1% better every day. You look up a year down the road, like you're going to be an entirely different player, right? So those guys that really buy into that we have and that we see, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, Coach, is just like you said, like you don't see the guy for a while and he comes back. And our goal for every guy that we have is when we send them off at the end of the year, like our younger teams, when we don't see them for the summer, when we get back in the fall, guys are entirely different. We say, here's the plan, here's your throwing program, here's your med ball work, here's your hitting program that you need to do. When you come back, our goal for you is to be entirely better than what you left us as the previous year.
I think too, for me, like just listening to you talk about all those guys, other than one, they had to learn on their own. You know, we make that comment too. Like if I had that $1 million secret, like I'd be sitting in Cabo drinking margarita. You know, if I was able to just make everybody that good. And for me, and just listening to that and hearing it, those are incredible stories, right? Like those are the stories I wish I could live out and get to be a part of and live that dream. But I think the biggest thing is I compare that to the guys that I played with that were the same exact way. Guys that maybe not necessarily should be that guy, guys that coming out of high school are not that guy, guys that are not even getting recruited to Power 5 or big time schools. Everybody looks at them and say, hey, that's not a guy that's going to play professional baseball, right? But the consistent thing that I see is it's honestly not even the coaches. It's not us, right? It's not you. It's not the people. It's 100. All that we are is a vessel to guide. And we just help say, hey, this is what I think. This is the stuff that I've learned. You've got to figure it out for yourself, though. And every single person that I've been around that's been that good and had the opportunity to get drafted, and the same stories that you just told, they're all self-learners. They're guys that are studying the game, right? Everybody always talks about being a student of the game, and what does that really mean, right? And I think people think it's like, oh, it's watching baseball on TV and like seeing them strike people out and hit home runs. Like, no, that's not it, man. Like being a student of the game is knowing how it works, being so detailed about your team, being so detailed about like the understanding of how, just especially nowadays, how force is produced, how things are supposed to work in the delivery, how things are supposed to work in the hitting side. If you can understand that from just honestly, like a book setting, you can go apply that for yourself. And that's just what those guys sound like they've done is they went and applied what they learned and tried it out. And it was trial and error. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm 96. Everybody sees the 96, right? They're like, oh, congratulations, you're getting drafted. Nobody saw the shit that they had to do for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They didn't see that struggle. They didn't see the trial and error. They didn't see the testing of things that, hey, this works for me, this doesn't. You know what I mean? So I think for anybody, they've got to understand, like, dude, this is not a thing that happens overnight. And even if you do stuff every single day, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. What you do have to do is you've got to try it out and you've got to learn it, right? If you learn stuff and you apply it to yourself, I think if then you're doing that, that's when you're going to turn yourself into a ball player that's like a force to be reckoned with, right? You're going to be somebody that's actually legit at this game.
And I think the next common thing is there's no timeline for success. Mm-hmm. Some guys may figure some things out in 1 month they gain 8 miles an hour, right? But just like you said, some guys have to go just like through the trials and tribulations. Like honestly, now this is going to sound weird, but when guys walk in with lessons with us, and especially guys on the teams, I get excited because like we had a kid this summer. He goes out, doesn't have a very good summer at all hitting wise. We get into the fall and now we have to revamp some things. Right, we got to recreate his swing a little bit, but what comes with that is now he's understanding how his body works. He's understanding how he's trying to move and what he's trying to do in the box. So now he gets in there and he has complete ownership and buy-in of what he's doing. And now he's the one when he walks in with lessons that's leading the way, telling us what we need to do based on what he's doing and what he's feeling. So when guys are struggling like that, I love seeing that because it forces them to have to understand a little bit more. Because in my opinion, when you get players to buy in for themselves and really take ownership of their careers, that's when you really start to see the leaps and bounds and jumps within their success.
Yeah. I think that's the thing too. Like you were asking about, we got off subject. Pretty good at that one. Is getting off subject, but you asked about like tangible things, and what do we want to see whenever we go out? And obviously, sure there are talent things. There are, running and hitting and throwing, and yes, for sure. One of the biggest things that I think people always want to know, like, well, what's the right person? Like when I say like we want the right people. Well, okay, well, what is the right? I think the work ethic is a big deal. And having a plan, because there's so much time, in college baseball at every level, that they're on their own. For us, at the Division I level, obviously we have the time restraints, where we're allowed, even at our most, whatever it is, 20 hours in a week. So I'm not a math major, but there's a lot more than 20 hours in a week, that they're on their own. And so we can show them things, but then, hey man, they got to go do that on their own. And there has to be, I think the biggest thing for us is work ethic and attention to detail, which sometimes is lacking, and the work ethic is, again, it's like you said, it's not a one day thing. When I went on a diet yesterday after I had Christmas dinner and all that stuff there, and then I woke up this morning, I still hadn't lost any weight. I didn't know what happened. Apparently I have to do that more than one day. So, but it is one where, for us, the right person does have a work ethic that is probably different than most. And, and some attention to detail, because you can go down there and you can work like crazy in the cage, or you can go work like crazy. But if you don't have the attention to detail, you could actually get worse. And I think people confuse like, activity, or work with like getting better. It's not always true. I mean, you can go down there and you can work really hard on the wrong thing and get worse. And I think they have to know, hey man, what works for me and what do I need to be good at? Because I'm 5'8", and graduated college at 150 pounds. So when I go down there and work like crazy on, hitting the ball in the air, and well, man, I couldn't hit it and go out there and pick it up, hit it again, and hit it out. So like technically, I got worse. I needed to be working on other things. And I think a lot of people want to work on what they're good at, and I think that's the other thing that people have to hear is that, I mean, you got to work on the things that you're bad at.
Yep.
Nobody likes that, to hear that. Nobody likes, there's a reason you're bad at it is, it's not as fun to work on and all that stuff. And so I think having a plan is a big deal, and having the work ethic and the attention to detail to go work on that. The month of December is crazy as a college baseball coach, right? Because we spend all fall working with them to help them get better and to do all that stuff, and then we turn them loose for a month, and we just hope that they come back, ready to go in January. And I think the really good teams, their guys in the fall, obviously better than they started. Hey man, we started out and we got better through the course of the fall, and then the fall ends. Well, the good ones like continue on and get a little better over December, and the bad teams, they get a little better over the fall, and then they kind of take a dip because those guys don't work like they're supposed to work over December, and then they come back in January and they're playing catch up. Where the good teams and the good players, like, hey man, they got better from August to November. They got better on their own a little bit more November to December, or through December into January. And then obviously the month of January is about getting ready for the spring, and continuing to get better. And it's a continual climb, to be ready at the end of May, for the postseason and all of that. And I think that's a big deal, is finding people that are committed to the work ethic and are committed to the attention to detail, that can go down to the cage on their own, tee it up, and know that, hey man, I am working on this, versus sometimes you walk in the cage and, hey man, what are you guys working on? Just getting some hats.
I think, yeah, I know. And I think for us, that's kind of what I'm saying too, is like being a self-learner, right? So like,
Yeah.
if you know what is wrong for you, right, and then you learn what's right for you, that's exactly what you're saying, right? So I think for us, like, that's something that we struggle with, is like, we got guys that come in the cage, we have guys that are on team, you try to coach them, and the attention to detail's not there. And like we say attention to detail, we're thinking like I'm being perfect and like being like a robot, right? That's not what attention to detail means, right? It's being able to understand and comprehend, ask questions, right? But then go apply it to yourself on your own, whether that's, again, like watching a video. There's so much information on Google nowadays, right? There's so much out there that people have studied that guys can take home and go like, hey man, like if I just learn this, if I can just understand and grasp this concept, I may not know how to perfectly do it, but at least I know what I need to be executing on my own, so that when I do go hit the cage, I'm not just popping balls up all over the cage and like having no sense of purpose or not having no objective behind what I'm doing. So, Coach, we have a little bit more time left. I wanted to dive into recruiting a little bit, and I know we've talked a ton about recruiting. We've gotten to hear kind of y'all's philosophy. If you were a parent today or you were a player today, and you're a guy that honestly, kind of like in your situation, how you were growing up is the same situation that I was in coming out of high school. What would you be doing in today's landscape of college baseball to get recruited? If you were a player like both of us, we're not heavily recruited, not a guy that's going to stand out and be the best of the best, but what should we be doing if it was you and I again? That's like, hey, this is what we're going to do to set ourselves up in a position to just get the chance, get the opportunity to go play.
I think the first thing that you have to do is be honest with yourself. At what level can you play at? And that's not a shot at anybody, and it doesn't mean that that just because you think you can play at one level that you shouldn't keep working. To play at a higher level if that's what you want to do. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have played professional baseball that started out not playing professional baseball. Not started out at the right level, that everybody thinks, and so I think one thing is being honest with yourself. But then to like get noticed and to be seen, and I think a lot of it is, there's a lot of baseball being played, especially in South Texas. We got great weather, they get to play all the time. I think the biggest thing is, realize that every day that you go play, it's an opportunity that you never know who's going to see. You never know who, the coach for the other team is or who he's friends with, or, so I think the first thing is know that kind of every day you go out there, you're kind of the CEO of your own brand. So what are you putting out there? And again, we all have bad days, and trust me, as a college coach, like I go to a lot of games and I'm okay when I go to the game and the guy strikes out 3 times. Like, guess what? It's going to happen. If I thought you were never going to strike out, then hey man, like that'd be different, but we're all going to strike out. We're all going to get hit really hard. For me, sometimes it's like, man, how does that guy handle that? Because guess what? Like it's going to happen in college baseball too. And if the guy can't handle that failure and all that. So I think a lot of it is, how do you handle yourself? Both when you're good and, when you have a good day, I'm watching that, how you handle that. And when you have a bad day, how do you handle that too? Because I think the same thing's being said for me as a coach. I think everybody's watching how I handle the success. They're also watching how I handle the failure. And I think the consistency is probably the biggest thing that people look for, is how consistent is that guy? Hey man, 3 for 3, great. 0 for 3, great. Same guy, shows up every day, plays really hard. We've all heard that like you shouldn't be able to tell what the score is based on how you're playing. I think there's a lot of truth to that, and that's hard. It's not easy. I'm not trying to tell you that that's easy. That's hard, but I think there is a lot of truth to that. But once you're honest with yourself, and then you understand that every day you go out there is an opportunity for somebody to see you, either see you good or see you bad. That just depends on how you go about your business. But I think then to get noticed, I think is to reach out to places, and kind of put together a list. Hey man, I like these schools, and I think I can play at this level, and whether that's a video or whatever it is. I think reaching out. I think going to their camps. If that's a place you want to go, hey man, go get on their campus. Just like you guys, came to team camp, and I think that's a way to like. And then I think you get to see that coaching staff, in action a little bit, and hey man, if they're really detailed and organized in a team camp setting, then I would imagine that they're really detailed and organized in their own team. Like I doubt they're just putting on a show just for that. But go to camp at those places, or email those coaches and send them your spring schedule or your summer schedule. It's okay to keep them updated. Like hey coach, I went 3 for 3. Hey coach, I went 4 for 4. Sometimes you got to tell them, hey coach, I went 0 for 4. That's okay too. But I think a lot of it is kind of being proactive. Part of finding the right people at Corpus Christi is also finding people that want to be there. I don't want to fit a square peg in a round hole. I don't want to go out and have to beg anybody to come play for us. I think we got too many good things going in Corpus Christi to have to beg people to come play for us. So I think for me, the proactive guy that has shown an interest in our program, I think is a big deal. I think it makes it easier for us to recruit that guy because, hey man, they want to be here. They want to be here. They want to be coached by us. They reached out to us. Like they've stayed in contact with us. Like I think there's a big deal for us finding people that want to be in Corpus Christi. And so I think when guys show an interest in being there, and again, unfortunately, like there's a lot of people that want to be in Corpus Christi that just either we don't have that need, or maybe they're just not good enough. And hey man, that's the hard part of my job is to have to say that. But also sometimes, like I said, we just don't have that need. Hey man, we're loaded at this position, so like that would just be a disservice to that person to bring them in. I think so. Sometimes we can, kind of tell them, hey man, we don't have that need right now. If you wind up in junior college, though, like keep us posted. If you do go to junior college, let us know where, so that way, like because in 2 years from now, hey man, we're going to need that position. And so I think you can get feedback that way. But I think that's the biggest thing is that is to be proactive with the places that you want to be in, and obviously but I think being realistic too. Like I said, I'm originally from Arkansas, so every kid in Arkansas, grows up and wants to play at the University of Arkansas. Like that's just the way it worked. Here or whatever. Well, not every kid, especially 5'8", 150-pound Matt Parker, was going to play at Arkansas. That would have been dumb for me to continue to email them or whatever and do all that. And but I think it's being realistic with yourself and continuing to work. Hey man, if you want to play at that level, work. There's like I said, there's a lot of guys playing pro ball that were told you can't, and they didn't listen to that, and they kept working and they kept doing. And but I think being proactive and selling yourself, and putting together that video. Obviously, make it a short video, a quick video. You don't have to go crazy on. I promise you, I don't really care about the music that's in the background of the video, and I promise I don't really care about all the graphics. And like literally, I don't care, honestly. People, and this can sound bad, like people are paying a lot for some of those scouting services and things like that. And because it's a cool video, and honestly, like it's a 4-minute video, I'm not watching 4 minutes of that video. I just want to see, hey man, I want to see the guy take some swings from the side. I want to see the guy take some swings, from the front or the back. I want to see the guy, field some ground balls and throw them. Maybe they run a 60, maybe they don't. That one doesn't really bother me. Hey, from a pitching standpoint, I want to see, all the pitches being thrown at me like I'm the catcher, or from behind, either one, a couple shots from the side. Great if we can see some velocity stuff in there. That's it. Like I said, it can be literally, if you edit it right, it can be a minute long, and be good with it. Because again, I've never watched a video. I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like this is probably pretty safe to say. I've never watched a video and called the guy and gone, hey man, I saw your video. Here's a scholarship offer. Like, just not going to happen like that. But it is one that piques your interest. Like if you watch a guy and you're like, hey man, like that's actually looking, David Samlin, is a guy that sent a video, and I thought, man, that looks good. Like he's long armed. And so that made me call his high school coach, and his high school coach, said like, yeah, probably not for what you're trying to build at Eastern. Like he's a good player and is going to find a way somehow to play college baseball. And because there's a spot for everybody. I think that's what other people need to know too, is there's a spot for everybody. But you got to be willing to like sometimes move, and you got to be willing to like, work at different levels, and you got to be able to work your way up and do different things. But again, it started with a video from David Samlin because he had an interest in Eastern, and he sent it, and it made me check on it, and then it kind of just started. And he wasn't highly recruited. We were the only ones, and most people don't know this about him. He was a walk-on. He made it, and he had the freshman year and stayed as a walk-on. The guy was a walk-on for 2 years. We had 94, 96 as a walk-on at Eastern because he said like, hey man, I want you to coach me, and you said you would do that, and I agreed to do it this way. Like I'm okay with that. What an A+ dude that guy is. And it made our team better because we were able to like spend that money elsewhere. And it made our team better that he didn't take that money in. But again, he had a plan. He reached out to us, and it just kind of worked. It made us track him down, and we've taken some guys at Corpus Christi, at Eastern, at Oklahoma Wesleyan, that honestly are good players and the right people, but they showed an interest in us. And I'd rather coach people that want to be coached, that want to be coached by us, that picked us, rather than like somebody that I had to beg and plead and almost try to talk into, because if you have to talk them into coming to your place, they were never really interested in your place for the right reasons anyway. And I think that's a big deal, is finding people that want to be at your place.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is what I'd say too. For us, like, number one, everything that you say is the same exact stuff that we're talking to people on a day-to-day basis. And I think once you get on the same page about that, like, I think everyone starts to really understand, like, where everybody's coming from. It's all the same stuff, I think everybody's going to have their own flavor. Y'all have your own flavor. Definitely want to dive in sometime, especially when y'all come down to San Antonio, either play UTSA or UIW. We're going to have to get you and Coach Ruiz on there and talk hitting, because y'all's philosophy there is phenomenal.
We'll spend 2 hours on that.
We're going to talk for probably 4.5 hours on that and not get off of it. But, Coach, we appreciate you. It means a lot to us, just helping us out, helping our guys out, just giving information to the people here in San Antonio. Hopefully somebody hears this that is a damn good baseball player, throws 98 and comes and plays for A&M.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, we love that and help you out. But you have anything for him?
We appreciate it, Coach. As always, you get a little long-winded on these things. We like talking this stuff, especially with the like-minded people. That's the biggest thing for us, is if we can get people not so much on board with us, but along the same lines of what we're thinking and stuff, it means a lot, especially coming from you and your background and your pedigree and what you're doing at A&M Corpus. It means a lot to us to be able to hear that same verbiage and stuff like that. It's always good talking with you.
Man, I appreciate you guys. Yeah, let me come on, and anytime we can do it. I know Coach Rees, would love to get on and talk hitting if we can sometime, and Coach Malone as well. I mean, obviously, if there's any way, Coach Kelly, on the pitching side of things, anything we can ever do to help out with you guys, let us know, and we'd be glad to.
Yep, absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to start getting going, especially this year in 2023. We're going to be doing podcasts every single week, basically, especially once the office is set up. Mom and Dad got me some new microphones for Christmas, so we're ready to roll, baby. So we're excited for 2023. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you soon. See y'all.
See y'all.
Stop.